Hello my love bugs, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Erin, and in today's video I will be sharing my story about my diagnosis and my diabetes. But before I begin the actual story and explanation and dive into what it really means and that kind of thing, I wanted to put a quick disclaimer at the beginning. Just stating I am not a physician yet, hence my channel name. I do not claim to be, so do not take this video as a form of diagnosis, and do not take the information shared in this video as if it is the perfect treatment plan and options for you, because it may not be, and nobody wants to die. So I, again, am not a physician, but I do think that me sharing my story can help educate non-diabetics and even diabetics about their condition, about this condition, and the treatment options, because for me, I always thought diabetes was a pretty well-known subject, but you find that there's a lot of misconceptions with it, and a lot of just untrue facts that people get told. So as a type 1 diabetic, I'm here to tell you and correct those statements, make sure the right information is getting put out there. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoy. So yes, I am a type 1 diabetic. So before I got into my personal story of diagnosis, I kind of wanted to give a little clip of just general information about diabetes, because it'll help with the understanding of my symptoms and diagnosis. So yes, I am a type 1 diabetic, and specifically, I have diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus is a condition in which a gland in your body called your pancreas, it resides near the stomach, is unable to produce adequate amounts of this hormone called insulin. Insulin is used by the body to transport the sugar or glucose in your bloodstream that is placed in it by digestion into the cells to be used as a fuel source. But with type 1 diabetes, or type 2 even, your body does not produce enough of it, so your cells cannot get the fuel they need without synthetic insulin or some kind of medication. But I have specifically type 1 diabetes, type 1. And in this case, type 1 is a little different than type 2. Type 1 is genetic, so it's passed down by your family members, and they find that it regularly skips a generation. Whereas type 2 is environmental, meaning it's caused by habits that you have, whether it be eating habits, other health conditions, those kind of things. Type 1 is also autoimmune in nature, meaning that for some reason, which now we know it is genetic, I have a predisposition for this condition, and basically, for some odd reason, my body recognizes these cells that produce insulin as an invader, like it would a virus, for example. Once it's in your body, it'll try to fight it and kill it to get rid of it, so it doesn't cause harm. Now, regularly, this would not happen, but because of some genetic mutation with my immune system, this happens, and it killed my beta cells. So I am no longer able to produce insulin. So the treatment for type 1 specifically is usually synthetic insulin, specifically Humalog, Novolog, Lantus. Those are some examples, but synthetic insulin, meaning it is man-made, and it resembles the naturally produced insulin that our body would produce normally. But since, again, I can't produce it, I have to use the synthetic one, but it works the same way. So once you take your insulin, your sugar uptake, with some, adjustments and visits to the endocrinologist, will act normally as it would if you weren't to take it. But now there's just a few extra steps in the process. But yes, so that's pretty much a quick type 1 diabetes lesson. So now I want to get into my actual story. So my symptoms started in December of 2018. And at first they weren't very critical. It was very dismissible. Nothing that was like, oh my god, like I need to go now. The first symptom that I remember recognizing was unquenchable thirst. And I'm talking like I was drinking 10 bottles of water a day and still like chugging. I would sit down with a water bottle, open it, finish it in one sitting, and not 5 minutes later be thirsty again. My mouth would be cotton mouthy, just not cute. And I said, okay, I kind of dismissed it, like it's just the weather changes, nothing crazy, just drink more water. And I was already drinking a ton, but you tell yourself whatever. And so I went on my life, and soon after my increase in water consumption, of course, I started developing frequent urination. And I'm talking probably every 45 minutes to an hour, I was in that bathroom peeing. And it wasn't just little pee, it was like a bladder full, like fully voiding. And my urine had become clear. It had lost all yellow tone to it. It was like I was peeing out straight water. And I said, okay, well, of course you're gonna be peeing a lot. So I tried adjusting like my drinking habits, no drinking after like 8 p.m. so I could get a full night's rest, and even still I was peeing a lot. And I said, oh my god. So then I started getting tired, and it wasn't just like exhaustion, like oh my god I need to take a nap. It was like beyond that. And yes, I was tired, but it was like fatigue, like my muscles just felt so tired from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And it was and I kind of played it off a little, I guess, like, oh well, you haven't been sleeping well. But after the fatigue continued to get worse, I was like, okay, I gotta see a doctor. And so, excuse me, getting me sorry. And I told my dad, I said, hey, like I've got these symptoms, I really think I should see a doctor. And he said, okay, yeah, I'll call and schedule it for you. And so he did. So we ended up only being able to get in, like the soonest we could get in was the 3rd of January. And so I was like, okay. So it was like a waiting game. And I remember the night of my appointment, the night before my appointment, so the second my symptoms got even worse. I had the fatigue, the exhaustion, the unquenchable thirst, the frequent urination. I had started getting nauseous and vomiting. I was very lightheaded and dizzy, and I was very sick. At that, my dad was like, we can go to the emergency room, but I was like, well, we've got an appointment tomorrow, let's just wait and see what they say. And so, sure enough, that's what we did. So, I actually got like, I think maybe 2 hours of sleep that night, probably not even, between getting up frequently, for urinating, vomiting, restlessness, and I said, okay, like, so 6 o'clock in the morning came, and I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm clearly not getting any sleep, so I might as well just get up and be productive. So I got dressed, but of course the moment I got up, I was fatigued, so I didn't really have energy, so I ended up like getting dressed and sitting in bed until the appointment time. I remember going out to the car, I was thirsty. I believe I actually brought like a water bottle with me and finished it on the way. And the drive to my doctor's was probably 10 minutes. So, anyway, I was also still lightheaded, fatigued, nauseated. On top of that, I was lightheaded. I had double vision, blurred vision, and tunnel vision, which is not a fun combination. So walking to the car in Florida heat was not any better. So I remember on the ride over to the doctor's, I just felt so sick. And like between the vision changes, the way I'd been feeling, my exhaustion, I felt so sick. I had to just sit in the passenger seat with my eyes closed. And I just laid there. We got to the doctor's office. They were super great, not a long wait time at all. We checked in, I think like within 5 minutes we're back. At this point, my father and I had an idea that it might be diabetes. And we kind of let my doctor know. The doctor then decided with the symptoms I was showing that it might be a good idea to do a finger stick test just to check your sugar level. And if it's high, then we'll, go from there. If it's not, then we'll do some tests. So the system they used maxed out at 600, and at that point it just says high and doesn't give an accurate sugar reading. So it was at that point, and that once my results came back like that, I was considered an emergent case. They said that I needed to go to the emergency room right now, and that they would send all my information and everything right on over, and just to get out, basically. They were like rushing me because I was so sick at that point. The emergency room I went to was actually right across the road, so I had to walk back to my dad's car, go in, that kind of thing. And they got me right back, so I don't know what the doctor told them to get me back there so quick, but it worked. And so I said, okay. So we got back. They did another finger stick, came back the same result. That checked my vitals, did a very quick assessment. So on top of my sugar being really high, I was super dehydrated. So they immediately started bilateral IVs in both arms and started draining fluids into me. I think by the time I finished the by the time I left the emergency room, I think I went through 3 or 4 IV bags of fluid. They were draining me, but I can tell you the moment I got that fluid to me, I felt so much better, but not 100% of course. On top of that, since my sugar was so high, they decided that they would start a bolus of insulin because they had to obviously get my blood sugar down. They also wanted to do a bunch of blood work, CBC, electrolyte panels, blood gas panels. They wanted to, of course, get an actual reading of my blood glucose. So I was getting pricked and prodded every way to the moon. So but it was okay. At that point, I was just make me feel better. I feel so sick. So, we finally got the result back and found out that my blood sugar was 1,554, I think was the exact reading. And if you don't know, your blood sugar is not supposed to be anything over 120. Most people that you see with blood sugars over 1,500 are comatose and unresponsive or deceased. They're dead. And I got told that multiple times by the care staff, which, I understood. They were just making sure I knew how serious the situation was. But, obviously I never really doubted it after we found that out. So I said, okay. So I sat there. At that point, they informed us that obviously I was very sick and had to be admitted to the hospital. So then we had to decide which hospital I wanted to go to, and then of course get me there. And so I think I was in the emergency room, I want to say maybe 3 hours, and then they found a spot at the hospital and ambulated me over there by ambulance. I was like, okay, I had never even had IVs before that I remember. I'd never been in an ambulance. So, it was a lot of firsts, but I wasn't really necessarily scared. I think because I already had a lot of knowledge of the stuff, not only diabetes, but like medicine. I do have obviously some knowledge of it if I want to go into it. So I kind of knew like what to expect with a lot of the stuff they were doing. So sure enough, we went to the hospital. They found me a room. Actually, they were trying to put me in the PICU, the pediatrics ICU, but it was full. But the emergency room doctor, he was so amazing, actually pulled some strings and got me a place in the cardiac ICU because obviously I could not wait. Like, I needed to be in the hospital. And I think he really just emphasized that. So I got admitted. In total, they just kept the IVs running with the insulin. I remember I was so hungry, but they kept telling me, we can't feed you until your sugar gets under 300. So I was like, oh my god, my stomach's grumbling. I was starting to feel much better though, as my sugar started to drop. Like, I could feel myself like returning to normal. And so I finally got to like below 300 at like 3 in the morning, and they brought me some stale graham crackers and some not so great quality peanut butter. But to me, that was like a 5-star meal, and I was ready to eat. So I ate it, but they told me that after I ate, my sugar level flew back up again, and that we couldn't switch from the IV insulin to the like injections yet. So we had to wait for it to come back, and then I finally got to eat breakfast that day. Oh my gosh, more than anything, I wanted my coffee. And I remember when they brought coffee into me, I said, "Ooh, yummy." And they were like, they thought it was kind of funny. I said, "Oh, I love my coffee." And the nurse was like, "Did you want some more?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." So they went ahead and brought me some more coffee, which I am going to regret later because I have acid reflux disease and I had heartburn after, but that's fine. A good tum and we were good. But so I finally got to eat, and then it was just from there, again, waiting for my sugar to get back to a normal level. Once it got to that level, we switched from the bag to the pen, like injections, and we were good. So it was a fun day. Actually, it was 3 days. I think I was in the hospital for like 3 days total. So then I was released, obviously, and they had given me instructions to find out if my insurance covered the endocrinologist I had been seeing, and they did, but then because I was a minor, they didn't want to treat me. So I finally found an endocrinologist. I love them. I go to the UF Pediatrics endocrinology clinic, and I love them. They're so amazing there. And we've been working on it since. But so when I was released from the hospital, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes mellitus, of course. On top of that, I was in complete diabetic ketoacidosis, which is a body a response your body does when you're without insulin. Basically, it's your essentially body is starving because it isn't getting fuel. So it starts trying to burn fat to get the fuel it needs. But again, without the insulin, it's not getting any nutrient, like any of that sugar. So on top, and then you've got all the sugar in your bloodstream, so your body starts producing these ketones, and it's trying to flush out all the glucose from your bloodstream through your urine. So then, on top of my diabetic ketoacidosis, I was severely dehydrated. And then, because of my DKA, I was in acute kidney failure. My electrolytes were everywhere. It puts a lot of stress on your kidneys. So, you know, fun. So anyway, yes, so I was very sick, obviously. I could have easily died. I was told multiple times too that I had gotten to the doctor just in time. And everyone was like, if you had stayed like out of the hospital, out of the doctor's office for even just a couple more minutes, a couple more hours, you could have died. And I'm like, not me, not me, sis, I'm a strong. No, so it was intense. But you know, I just try to stay positive, and you know, I think it's one of those things where no matter what mistakes you make, what decisions you do, you know, what actions you take, the important thing is that you learn from it. And I think the biggest lesson I probably learned was to trust your gut instincts. And you know, it's like nobody knows your body more than you do. You know what's normal for you. And I knew that what was going on, even from the start, honestly, was not normal. I was sick, but I was in denial. And it's one of those things like, because of that, I got very sick. If I had accepted my symptoms for what they were sooner, then I wouldn't have gotten as sick. I wouldn't have nearly died. So it's very important to remember, you know, just know yourself, you know yourself. And it's better to go to the doctor because of a symptom and have them tell you, oh, it's the cold, it's, you know, something, it'll go away, than leave type 1 diabetes untreated, leave cancer untreated, you know what I mean? You know, so, and they'll tell you that. As someone that works in healthcare, I can tell you that doctors will tell you that. They'd rather you come in and be told and find out that it's just, you know, a little cold, a rhinovirus or whatever, than come in when you've been showing symptoms for 4 months and find out you have stage 4 cancer or something. On top of that, I want to just say, like, remember to be grateful for your support system. Thanks to my family and friends, I got through this with their support, and I can't thank them enough for that, you know. And it's like, I can't even begin to fathom the things people that go through this, like, alone must be feeling, because it is scary. So it's like, thank you to my dad, thank you to my stepmom, thank you to my biological mom, my siblings, my friends' families, the pastor that came and visited me. Thank you so much for helping me through. It was a scary time of my life. And you know, it's like, on top of that, it's like, look for the positives and things, you know what I mean? It's, you know, this was a very traumatic, life-changing diagnosis. It was traumatizing and scary, and like, there's so much negativity with it. But for example, before I was diagnosed, my biological mother and I were not close at all. We didn't talk a lot, we did not have a good relationship, but my mother is type 1 diabetic as well, and I learned that I could go to her and talk to her. And it's like, if I had not been diagnosed, I very well could have a horrible relationship with my mother still. And we've had our disagreements. You know, we've had all of these things go on between us, and it's like, we're human. We made mistakes. We made decisions, and it wasn't the best decisions. But I moved on, and I've forgiven her, and I think she's forgiven me. And now we have an amazing relationship. So it's like, this diagnosis basically rebuilt a relationship that I thought I never would have. So there's positives in every situation, even if it seems like everything is going wrong, everything is incorrect, there's nothing to look forward to. There's always something to be grateful for, always the bright side of things. And it might not be as obvious as the negativity, but if you live your life searching and focusing on that negativity, then you're not really living your life, and you're not going to love your life either. So you know, just look for positives. So, but anyway, that is my story of my diagnosis. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Myself or one of our family members here on my channel will try to answer it as best their ability. If it's something more private and you don't really want to post it, feel free to reach out to me on any of my socials. They're always listed down in the description, so go ahead and hit me up on there. I also am thinking about doing some videos on like a day in the life, my treatment options, the things I use, stuff like that. So if you would like to see those videos, leave a comment, hit the thumbs up button, and I'll go ahead and post things like this. You know, I don't really post videos where I just like sit down and talk, I feel like. And I don't hate it. It's kind of nice, so I don't know. But anyway, I love you guys, and I will see you in my next one. Mwah.